Hey, it's David here, CEO and founder of the Freedom Founders Mastermind community. I want to talk to you today about trust but verify. Ronald Reagan, that was one of his quotes that he had back in the 80s when he was president. And he said, we want to trust people, we want to trust other countries' leaders, but we need to verify. And that's one of the biggest problems I see in the financial investing marketplace today. We do a lot with alternative investments. We like that because we have proximity. That is, we have connection to where our money is going, particularly if we want to be passive investors, which is where I definitely want to be today. I don't want to be out doing what I did back when I was in my 20s and 30s and boots on the ground and dealing with contractors and tenants. All great learning experience, but today I value my time. So to do that, I want to make prudent investments, but I want to do it through people. And the worst thing to do is make investments just because of an affinity or an affiliation with somebody. Somebody you know. Maybe you know and you like them and you have a level of trust because you've been around them or you've seen them. They seem to be consistent. And yet, what happens if that person is not the person you thought they were? Why do I bring this up now? There's a saying that Warren Buffett often has that is, when the tide goes out, you find out who's been swimming naked. And that's happening big time right now. We're going through a downturn, through a correction, a market correction, a recession. This is like a forest fire that's necessary every so many years to clean out the underbrush, the excessive growth that always comes along during times when there's been a flourishment of growth. Well, same thing in the economy, same thing with investing. We've had an overabundance of this flourishment, not only because of the market growth, but because the fiscal and monetary policies of Congress and the Federal Reserve have pumped up this exuberant marketplace where money's been made for those who have assets or can invest in assets. Money's been made hand over fist over the last 13, 14 years. I mean, you didn't have to do a lot if you had any investments or any operational skills to make money, and yet everybody thinks that's the way it's always going to go. It's not. That's what I call recency bias. We think just because of what we've seen in the last few years is going to continue on, and that's a big mistake. Not to understand the cycles, understand how to play at a higher level or a higher game, or put your money or capital on higher ground. That's not fun to do because everybody wants to get the same returns, the double-digit returns that we've seen in the last number of years. And right now, that's not a good thing to be doing for most investors. So back to my point of how do you build trust, maintain trust, and verify. Most of the great people I have the opportunity to work with are professionals, well educated in their field of specialty, right? But on the financial side, very few have the financial acumen to understand how to go about investing, particularly if they're not just doing the traditional model of just turning their money over to a financial advisor, putting in the traditional financial 401k. Those seem to be the default mode that most people fall into because they go into that group think. Well, just because everybody else is doing it or my CPA says that's how you save taxes, well, I should do it too. And I think that's exactly the wrong way to go, particularly in the economic times we're in right now, which I foresee as being much more volatile than we've seen in the past. Notwithstanding regular business cycles, we can go back, I go all the way back to 4 decades ago when we went through the 1986 Tax Reform Act, which took away a lot of the benefits of investing in real estate and caused a kind of a market crash in real estate during that time. Again, that was government interference, which is typically what happens here. But we have to understand that's going to be the way of the world going forward. We've seen huge government interference in the last 2 or 3 years with COVID. Not saying it was all bad, it wasn't somewhat necessary, but the inefficiency of the government and how they try to steer this massive U.S. economy like a Titanic through a Panama Canal, they overturn every time. And you can't just be complacent and sit back, well, I'll just put my money in the market and dollar cost average. That's not going to work. That's not going to win the day for you. So how do you go about it? Well, back to the verification of your investments. In alternative space, again, I love the fact that I can be close to, have that proximity to people I invest with. Well, I have to have a network. I have to have a community. I have to know how to either build that myself through a lot of work or find that community. As an aside, that's what we do in Freedom Founders. Not selling anything here, but I'm just telling you that's what we've built here because we want the leverage of the community. So we have leverage to bring in and have the leverage to vet on a certain level and ask the hard questions to verify what's behind the scenes. You show up as a good person, you seem like you've got a good track record, but what's behind you? That is, what's behind the operator? What's the culture? What's the business look like? What do the financials look like? These are questions that a single investor is usually very, 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 very remote in even thinking about asking the questions. They don't know the questions to ask. So they just go along with everybody else and say, well, it sounds like it's been good in the past, but is it really good for today? The models are changing right now. I'd say 180-degree flip from what we thought a year and a half ago, certainly last 3, 4, 5 years, last decade. The model has changed, and people that want to learn how to do this don't know where to go. You've got to be on the forefront of this. This is critical to your future, to your kids' financial future. You invested the time in your training to become specialized in the work and the business that you do. And that's the income approach. That's the earned income approach, and we all need to have that. But how do you transition from earned income to actually getting your money working for you? Are you going to continue to do it in the stock market, in the 401k? Is that your game? If it is, I just have to say good luck. Because if you're not looking at alternatives, going a different direction, following a different, smaller minority group of people who are on the forefront of managing their own financial future, you're probably going to have a lot of frustration, a lot of desperation at some point. I don't want to see that for you. So there's a lot I unpacked here. I didn't give you any real granular aspects to it. There's way too much. I could do two days of training on this, but I want you to understand this is important. If you're hearing me now, wherever you are in your life, your success, your future success is not going to be predicated on what you've done in the past. Yes, it got you to where you are, and that's a good thing. But the change in the model and the economy, what's happening now, is happening at light speed. If you don't understand that and get on the forefront of what that looks like and be able to steer that yourself and not depend upon outside people who claim to be a fiduciary, but really the only one that can look out for you is you. Keep that in mind when you're thinking about your future. Talk to you next time.